Welcome back to Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate. Prowler only. Last time we took on an Elder Dragon and two Elder Dragon tier monsters that weren't quite Elder Dragons. This time we'll be doing the same thing with two monsters that look and pretty much act like Elder Dragons themselves. First one is going to be Trial by Akantor, has a Slaying and Akantor in Ingle Isle. Your best element here overall is going to be Dragon Element, and that's what I have the Shigaru weapon for. Alright, dropping straight into the arena, we have a very big monster. Now, I don't remember if I've fought him before. I may have in Village. But his best hit zone is going to be our face for cutting, and it is at a 50 hit zone. Pretty nice, and overall it's going to just be getting better when we break it. It goes up to, I think, 55? It actually might not go up at all. It just depends. I do believe our other monster is actually going to get better, but a lot of his other hit zones do. The tail is similar to Devil Joe in the regards that it's very large and covers wide areas when he actually sweeps it around, making it so that you may want to cut it, because when you do cut it, a decent chunk of it does come off. You've also got a neck hit zone of 35, and then your stomach hit zone is 35 as well, so not great overall right now, but they do get better again as we start breaking stuff. I do believe the stomach is 45 and the back is 40. Whenever those are broken. So still not necessarily better than the head. We'll still be focusing on that, but as the fight progresses, that's what we'll be working towards. Thunder's a little bit worse off, though it does share a hit zone, I believe, with Dragon Element at 30 for the tail. So if you're just trying to cut the tail, I guess you could use Thunder Element if you don't have anything else, and if it's a decent raw, but you would rather just build into raw if you're using a Blade Master weapon or something like that. I guess if you're a bowgun user, you kind of have to just build under raw, unless you're using element ammo, and then that's a completely different story. He likes to dig a lot, and he does move around the arena quite a bit whenever he does make moves. And I think you saw it there. Whenever he moved the first time, he actually did a beam, and that can cover pretty far distance. He will sweep it as well. Sometimes he won't. Sometimes he'll just shoot it straight out, but it's fine. When he was introduced in Monster Hunter Portable 2nd, I believe, he was pretty much the only other monster, along with Tigrex, to share this kind of pseudo-wyvern skeleton. And he is a flying wyvern. He is not an Elder Dragon, though I do believe if you do, like, code him into a different area that you can place traps in, he still cannot be trapped. So he is very much an Elder in almost every regard. There's the tail just being very large and flying around. But since he does share the same skeleton with Tigrex, a lot of his moves that are physical are going to be similar. So like the tackle that he does, his left foot, which would be on your right, will come first, and then the one that would be on your left, or his right, will come out second. He is so large, though, that he may just go completely over you if you are playing as a cat. But it is something to keep in mind, especially if you're trying to iframe or just position out of the way of it. You'll have a little bit more time on the left one if you do not get under the right one first. He does also have stomps, and of course he's so large that he's going to be causing a lot of tremors, so you do want to be careful about that too. Here comes a beam, we'll just get out of the way of it. It's not sweeping, so this is probably a good chance to punish with a Mega Boomerang, but we don't quite have enough gauge yet. I believe if you're too close to his roars, they will damage you, and you will also be hit, even with earplugs, with defense down, which is not great. You really don't want that, though we can heal that off pretty easily. You have to have an Adamant Seed or a Armor Skin or Mega Armor Skin, I believe, to just cure that off as a hunter. Probably you could do some weird shenanigans with like a Defense Up song with Hunting Horn or something like that. And I'm sure even Armor Horn for cats work as well, but we don't really have to worry about that. He's enraged now, so of course he's going to be a bit faster. Turn around, again, very, very, very similar to Tigrex in his moveset. So you just kind of wait him out here. We could actually play into Adept a little bit here and dodge into his attacks. Sometimes it is a bit odd. The hitboxes are surprisingly clean sometimes, and sometimes they're not. So you might dodge into something you think would hit you, it not hit, and then be hit by a actual attack coming from his body. So it is weird. A lot of his attacks do scoop up, and you do see Benkai actually has double defense down there. I do believe he got hit by a roar. His beam, I think, is just similar to a roar. It's like a sonic attack. It's not fire, even though he can like pull fire pillars out of the ground somehow whenever he digs. And it's a special attack, I believe, because he's not doing it quite yet. Yeah, he's just positioning right now. But I do believe it's sonic based, so it won't inflict you with fire element or anything like that. Here comes the sweeping beam. This would be another great opportunity to actually punish with a Mega Boomerang, but again, we don't quite have the gauge for that. Interesting thing to note, the stomach on Blunt is actually 40, and it goes up to, I believe, 50, something like that. So it actually has a decent synergy with Thunder Element, surprisingly. I did my research, if you can't tell, where the Thunder Element hit zone on the stomach is better than Dragon at 30. So if you have a really strong Blunt hammer, or Thunder hammer, like maybe Rajang, I don't think Rajang's hammer is good though. Could be wrong on that. No, it was an Iceborne, but not here. You'll be doing some extra damage than if you were using Thunder, or sorry, Dragon. But Dragon, I believe, is also 25 there, so it's not the complete end of the world if you have it. But since we are piercing through a lot of the body parts, and our main way of trying to get a bunch of damage out is Element, even though our Raw is a bit stronger, we'd rather have it hitting better hit zones on the off chance that we don't hit the head, like here. Because while the head is large, his other body parts are fairly large as well, so they might get in the way of hitting the head. I believe in my test hunt of this, Mega Boomerang was doing a lot of work just peeling off his parts. I want to say they have lower health than like the usual. He's fairly brittle, similar to something like Valstrax, where they break pretty easily even if you don't really put that much effort into attacking them. But you still do have to work a little bit. So something like a Pierce Bowgun won't be doing as well until it gets those parts broken, but since it's piercing through, it's probably going to get a decent chunk of them broken off. Don't think he generally attacks. Here's this little fire glob pillar attack thing. Had to liken it to anything. It's kind of like a Fatalis attack, which we haven't gone over, but you'll kind of see that. And he does actually attack physically. Sometimes he'll dig and pop out of the ground really quickly, but he doesn't do it that often. And that may just be an AI thing where I haven't seen him do it that often, but he can. He's turning around here. Here comes a slam. And since he's so large, we don't really have to play too close to him. So a lot of his trimmer hitboxes just do not affect us at all. And like this here, this is very wide AoE, so we will be hit by the tail, but surprisingly, we wouldn't have been hit by the tail if we had cut it off. I'm not going to work towards the tail because 30 is not a great hit zone. Even if we probably could break it off pretty quickly, it's on the complete other end, so I may focus on it if it is facing towards us, but if I have the face to attack, I'd rather just be getting that sweet damage off there. Wait and see what he does. Even though we are doing some decent dragon damage on the tail, I'd rather just be trying to push the hunt along. Of course, if you need parts, it's a big tail, so I do believe you get 2 carves from it, and since he is a very large monster himself, look at that throat jiggle. It's very weird. I think it does it when he roars too. Just has a very large set of lungs. But if you need parts, carve the tail, and also since he's a large monster, you'll be getting extra carves other than the regular 3 that you get from a regular monster. Again, he's pretty much an older dragon, but I believe for some reason in the lore that I haven't studied up on, he's not considered one. I don't know if it's just because he's secluded and he doesn't really pose a threat to anything. I think I've heard something like that, but whether or not that's right is a completely different deal. Benkai gets a swoop on the face, which is really good. I have them with the Dread Queen weapon. It's a bit odd, and I may have said something like this before, but the physical attacks with the Dread Queen weapon apply more poison than the physical attacks from the Deadeye weapon. So if you're using piercing boomerangs on your cat with Boomerang Pro, your Palicos, it's better to use Deadeye. But I believe if you're just using, you know, standard support skills on your Palicos, it's better to just have these. Could be wrong on that, and half the time they may not even be applying enough anyways. If they are having to use melee attacks, they're putting themselves in more danger, but I don't think anything really makes them favor one over the other. Maybe it's in their AI to use boomerangs more on a boomerang favored weapon, if it says so. I don't think so though, but again, I could be wrong. I don't know exactly how they code it. He's just kind of running around here. I will try to snipe him with this. He can't really attack me easily here. He has to do the classic head turns anyways, so as he turns around, I'm going to hold that long, make sure it hits the face. And he doesn't have too many ranged attacks. Again, the biggest thing is just him being able to sweep around, so as long as you're keeping in mind where the tail is at, you should be good. His little jaw attacks as well do scoop out fairly far, and this is a short-ranged sonic beam, maybe a dragon beam. I believe I saw dragon crackles on me. I've never actually been hit by that, other than there. That's, well, I'm sure I have in the past, but when I practiced it, I never got hit by it. If you're on the right side of him when he starts to do it, you're pretty safe. You have a very long tail for him to actually do it. And if you're closer to him, you're most likely not going to be hit by it because it goes out a little bit. Looks like he's doing another beam. I'm going to try to maybe focus on getting a little more gauge here and throwing some Mega Boomerangs out. I've got to go fight Win here, so I might actually try to use it. There's a scoop up. I think we're good here, as long as we do a fast one. He's not even looking at me, so we're good. Get a topple. If you break the claws, both of them, or either one of them, let me say it like that, you'll get a topple, as long as he's not in a specific animation. Some animations you can, of course, cancel. It's not really in your power to know when a leg will break, other than if you're only focusing on it, so you should expect it to happen at some point. But that topple is nice if you feel like you can't get Mega Boomerangs off. That was a bit risky because his roar does pull up some lava pillars, so he can get you while you're just standing there, but he didn't hit us, thankfully. His spin around. We'll try to punish his face there. Looks like he's digging again. Worst part of the fight is the digging, especially if he just moves, because then he's going to be on the other side of the map. I'm going to actually try to be predictive in that, but he did just try to hit me with physical damage. So we'll punish his face here. Throw one more out, dodge to the right if he's going to tackle me, which he does. I believe it's also maybe fairly easy to get under that right claw due to the way he pulls it out. Again, it's exactly the same as Tyrex, where it lunges forward and over you a little bit. So if you dodge in under it, you may not even activate your adept iframes. It's like he's just roaring here, so we're good at this range. Now, whether or not we hit him is a different story, and again, the lava pillars can attack you. I don't know what level of tracking they have. I do believe there's a little bit, because it's a little weird that, you know, if you only stand there, you will be hit a lot of the time. But I could be wrong. Doing his little combo tackle, so we'll try to punish him here. Be a little bit more aggressive, try to make sure it's not taking too long. Just standing there. That's not a beam, so we're good. I'm going to dodge forward. Also, those lava globs do extend a little bit further than they look, so you're not safe if you're on the edge of it whenever it appears. There's a roar again. He does like to scream a lot too. Again, it is technically an attack because it applies some debuff, but it's not that scary for us, especially since we have earplugs on. Of course, it's pretty simple to just dodge out of the way of it, but again, we like having earplugs to avoid those large area roars. That way we don't have to worry about using Mega Boomerangs, and that's an extra opening. I think he's coming up here. He's actually moving to the middle of the map. Used to have trouble with the tail, but whenever I had trouble with the tail, and that's the only reason I really make a special mention of it, was in base generations where you didn't have adept dodges or anything, so you were kind of at the mercy of positioning. And, you know, if you've not played the game for very long, you're still learning where the best spots to go are. And remember, since your adept dodges are a parry of sorts, you will be fine to actually just move around him while he's doing his tackle, as long as you get the initial dodge off. Wait, see what it does here. Just moving around a lot. I'm surprised the cats are actually living as much as they have been, but I'm not going to complain about it for sure. Get his subquest complete after him just standing there and taking a bunch of those Mega Boomerangs. It's pretty nice. If I lock in Mega Boomerang to anything, it's a slow Dragon Piercer from Bow in the newer games. I do believe they actually buffed it in the in Wilds, so it's fairly strong. But it's similar here, except Mega Boomerang's a bit slower, but I do believe it trades that speed for power. Also, you can aim it a little bit easier, I guess, than in World. World, you couldn't do it, I believe, in 360 degrees, but here you can do it anywhere you want. He's gonna roar. Also, this one comes back, so even if you miss it, I've said this before, it'll come back around, so it may just hit the monster, even if not favorably. All right, we'll wait here. Also, it does have the mechanic of being able to hover in the best hit zone if you do want to put in the effort for that, which again does get some value out of it, especially on the slower monsters or on just downs or things like that. But I don't always find it to be the most important thing to do, especially if I can trade that for getting another one out instead. Now, on the short topic of the short-ranged beam, so when he rears up and shoots it down, he'll do it in 2 sections. And then he'll slam down. So if you are in front of him after dodging it, you'll want to get back away or just adept dodge it. I mean, that's always what you can do. Just adept dodge it and you should be pretty fine. Looks like he's doing a regular beam, not a sweeping one. Get some nice damage off here. Also, you may actually want to try to do your boomerang spins because the fight is fairly geared towards actually melee. So like here, I could actually lunge and then try to spin into something if I was close to anything. but that will actually, I believe that is better DPS if your melee stat is okay and if the monster is giving you opportunities for it. If it's putting you in bad positions where you can't immediately attack afterwards, like with faster monsters, then you don't want to do it as much, but it is a fairly high motion value for that boomerang spin. Go ahead and spin here, like that, and especially if you can get it on the face, it's a lot of good damage. The problem is, though, that tail, so if you don't want to be stuck in an animation, you want to get really used to those tails and see when he's actually fixing to sweep around. And you can always cancel the combo early, so you don't have to worry about it too much if that does start to happen. You'll just want to wait and see what he's doing before you actually spin. Like here, I don't want to do it, so I'll dodge into it. Now I'm free to actually attack him, get a leg break, and then spam mega boomerangs while he's downed. Okay, I did get hit there, and I believe the difference, and actually shows a bit of a neatness to even, I believe, Tigrex's animations, is that even though the regular attack is parried, if you are dodging the first initial charge, the secondary little finisher that he does counts as a separate attack, and I don't want to lose another acorn here. So what that means is if you are hit by the finisher, even after adept dodging the tackle, like that, the finisher is that little slam he does at the end trying to lunge forward. You will still be hit, like I was there. But for all the other combo tackles and stuff, you're safe as long as he doesn't turn around immediately, and he can't, he's so slow, and start tackling at you again. Alright, lost another acorn there because he actually faked me out with that, which I'm kind of surprised. I don't know what told him to do that other than I was close enough, but he did stop. So you don't want to go towards that right claw if you're trying to adept. At the very least, in my experience, it does tend to be a little more unreliable, especially considering, once again, if it goes over you, you don't activate your iframes, which could be good if you are not using adept, but it can be bad because you're also susceptible to actually be hit, or to being hit by the follow-up hit, which you'd rather not be, especially while in under him. But that's fine. We're almost done here. Normally it takes a little bit over 20 minutes for a regular run. Of course, these take a little bit longer because I'm not really paying as much attention to him. But a lot of punishable chances. He's a very slow monster, which is really good for us because that means we get lots of chances for Mega Boomerang. It is kind of a weird thing, similar to Greatsword, where you'd rather have a slower monster that you can punish a lot more than a faster monster, which doesn't let you get your strong charges out. So your standard gameplay is like dual blades in the sense that you're throwing out a lot of light elemental attacks that are weak on raw, but then you get your chances for downs, and that's why I like the weapon so much, because it provides kind of a mix of different hunter playstyles in a nice compact weapon that also gives you 2 free lives, even though the damage is a bit low itself. Here's the pin attack, which again, I hardly ever get hit by, but I guess I decided to here. Very actually simple. You do take some damage from it, but it's not that scary in the long run. However, if you get hit by the ground attack, you will die. I didn't cart on the test run. Again, I don't know what's happening here. He has, and like I said before, some of his hitboxes are more precise, which can mess you up. And some of them are less precise, which can also mess you up. Similar to those lava pillars. That attack didn't look like it extended out that far, so I thought I was fine just spamming dodge to position out of the way. However, it did actually reach a little bit further than it looked. Probably would be better if, again, we didn't have -16 dragon resistance, because I believe that's what made us lose an acorn to that dragon beam. I mean, it's not that much. The regular beam just does so much raw damage too, so it's not, you know, completely the fault of the armor. Obviously, if I wasn't getting hit as often, then it would be better. But it's not an easy monster to just kind of sit and spam stuff, because there's a lot of things that can catch you off guard. Hopefully he doesn't finish that tackle there. We're good. We'll go for the arm here. I do believe I've broken both of the arms now, so we can't get a topple. I'm going to spin here. He's going to actually do the scoop. Very weird where I'm at. He will also make the elevation change on this map, which isn't great because it litters it with a bunch of ledges, which you know how much I love the ledges. But Again, as long as you're taking it slower than I am, which I'm not. I've already fought him before, so I know kind of what his thing is. So I do just get caught off guard by just spamming stuff and getting too comfortable with them. Tackle here. Hopefully, turn around. Yes, I'm going to hold this so I can punish him a little bit, because if I let them go early, they wouldn't hit. This is a bit greedy. Remember, your iframes do activate a little early from when you actually start moving, especially after throwing your boomerangs, so you are pretty safe to still get some out. However, it's not necessarily wise to do that if you're not 100% certain. That would probably have been a good chime to throw Mega Boomerang because he's stuck in a very long animation, and the trimmer only hits around his face area and his arms, like that one. It doesn't actually hit behind him, so you're actually really safe to get a Mega Boomerang out. And this may end up being 30 minutes, but again, it's most of the time it's a little over 20. Go ahead and spin here. I think I'm fine getting under him. Go ahead and swipe here. It's going to do a head turn, so I'll throw one more out. Go to the right. I'm going to swipe to refresh my dodges. I tried to do a boomerang combo there, but buttons didn't work, I guess. So one boomerang out here. Actually did. Okay, that's the fake out that he does. It is the fake out. Looks like he's going to actually tackle towards you. He stops, makes you waste your adept dodge, and then actually hits you. That's just pretty smart on his part, I guess. Couple boomerangs here. I think this is safe. That little lunge is such a long animation, though he will just start digging, which kind of ruins it for us. But he should pop out of the ground here. And see, that didn't hit, even though it looks like it should. So I don't really know what happened there when I got hit by that digging attack. But there we go. Again, not the hardest thing in the world, but if you're not keeping your guard up, he can actually hit you because he does do a lot of damage with his hits. So if you're not being careful, he can actually blindside you. All right, back to base. Let's go ahead and look at another weapon we will not be using, the Akantor Sword X or Cross. Has green sharpness, so already not good at all, but a whopping 260, obviously right in front of my face, melee attack with, I believe, 20% affinity on your melee side, as well as 260 boomerang attack with 15% boomerang affinity. So we use element. Raw already is not going to be amazing, followed by green sharpness. Even with that massive amount of raw, it just kind of ends up not being good at all. And surprisingly, it does have a decent amount of affinity, but that doesn't offset anything it's showing here. For, I believe, 40 less raw, you get the Bloodbath Hammer. Well, a little bit more than 40 actually, which is nice. While the Bloodbath Hammer does have negative affinity, it also has a bonus 20 defense, not that that really matters too much. But it also has white sharpness, which is 2 stages higher than the Akantor sword. The Elder Frost one is also a similar story. It's got 19 more raw than the other one, with a little bit of ice element, but a very large amount of negative affinity. And it's also just worse on the boomerang side for raw, even though it has 10 element, which you're not using. So unfortunately, there's nothing you can really do. There's no bludgeoner for cats, which I don't even think that would fix it. And handicraft is a 4-slot skill, which makes really not flexible for anything. The extra boost you would get from the sharpness, even from green to blue, isn't going to be better than using a normal weapon with white or even blue sharpness and just using your standard crit or attack or element skills. So unfortunately not cool, or not good, even though it does look pretty cool. I will say this, it's a really nice looking weapon. It's just a lava sword, which is nice. Kind of looks like Lavasioth as well, but that's neither here nor there. As for the armor, it also looks pretty cool. The Akantor Visage Cross, 154, so not something you're using. And of course, even though they are flying wyverns, they do not have hyper version, so there's no XR or anything like that. Unfortunately, would have been pretty cool, but if you have transmog, you can just put the cool looking armor onto your actually stronger armor, so it's not really anything of a loss here. All right, our next monster requires a quest chain, and it's for this little cat here. Now this cat is also from, I believe, Monster Hunter Portable 2nd G or Freedom Unite, and this is your high rank village quest, I believe. The granny used to be your low rank village, and this was your high rank. She gives you some quests. I believe the first one she gives you, and I have it wrote down here because I don't want to get it wrong, but First one is a hub 6-star quest for the Magma's Rage, has you hunting a Hyper Lavasioth. Next one, after you do that, and you have to do a quest after that, whether it be Kelby Horns or just that 5 Hermitar quest. You can't do a Harvest Store for it because you actually have to progress time. But after that, then she'll give you a quest for a hub 7-star quest called Tigrex Burning Bright. It is hyper as well. And then after doing that and progressing another quest, you'll get the Village 7-star quest, Seismic Scares. While those Tigrex, and there's 2 of them, have low rank health and I believe defense multipliers, they actually have high rank damage multipliers and they give you high rank materials. There are a couple of quests like that, and I may have said something like it, but those were your options for offline high rank monsters, technically, if you don't want to have to go to hub. However, there's a limited selection of them, and it's not that reliable. You just would rather get good enough, so to speak, I guess in those terms, to actually fight the hub quests. And after that, and progressing another quest, which was our Akantor quest, you go talk to her, and she will give you a quest for Ukanlos, which we have actually fought before in High Rank Village, but G Rank Hub is a lot different than High Rank Village. So we'll go ahead and go back to the Hunter's Pub, and as you can see, we have our Akantor weapon equipped. Go ahead and eat our meal for Hurler. I'm going to use a voucher, that way I don't lose out on damage, because, again, I think it's really worth it once you get a good stockpile of vouchers just to use them. Hurler is 10% damage, which is good for your boomerangs. It is beyond better than a lot of the other single slot skills or anything you can have on your cat. So just having that for free on top of the other damage you can get is so important, and it will boost your hunt times, or I guess lessen them in that way, and just make them so much easier to do. Even if it's only like 5 minutes or something, it's still important. I mean, I guess it's technically reducing it by 10%, which is really nice. But if we go to G4, we have a quest called Polar Peril, as a slaying a Ukanlos in the polar field. Go ahead and take it, and again, Fire Element is our best, but Thunder is another second, similar to Akantor, and we'll head out. Alright, since we've already fought him before, and I'm not really good at remembering which moves a monster has and doesn't have, like, it's a weird thing where I get used to the G-Rank moveset, so when I go to high rank, I start trying to dodge stuff that I can't do. But then I just kind of forget what high rank can't do and what G-Rank can, so I just kind of don't really make note of it in my head. Similar tail story here, though I believe he doesn't scoop it around as much as Akantor, so again, like last time, we didn't take it off because I didn't feel the need to, even though I was getting whacked by it a decent amount. It's another case where you don't have to, but if you do want the materials, or if you just want to get rid of it because you can't adept dodge it, go ahead and do that. Front legs here are terrible hit zones, but we do want the face because I believe it is the only weak spot for cutting weapons, and that's what weapon type we're using here. Once it's broken, I do believe it goes from 45 to 50, something like that. I don't remember. I even wrote it down, but I'm not very good at multitasking. I will be hit if I look over at my notes. All right, he's trying to do the little Tigrex tackle. And again, since he is in the same generation that Akantor was in, and he was also added with the same skeleton Tigrex had, he's going to have a lot of similar moves. Definitely not the Ice Beam, though, and has very large ice chunks coming out of it. We could have also done these through event quests. In the event quests, I do believe they have higher, at the very least, damage multipliers and health. They may also have higher defense multipliers. So while the quest itself is a little more difficult, if you don't want to do the quest chain and you are fine hunting with other people, or if you're fine just taking a little bit longer on it, you'll be able to do those quests. There's a little Zamtrios type move where he scoops around. Doesn't actually do too much in the way of scooping stuff out of the ground, but he does track you pretty nicely, so you just want to run in one direction to stay out of the way of it. I believe there's also a similar case for Thunder Element on the chest once it's broken, where Blunt does have better Thunder Element there. I don't remember the exact numbers, but it's a weird use case for that. It's kind of like where Tigrex has a weird weakness. It may even only be like 15 to Fire Element on his chest, but the rest of his body is pretty much immune to it. Kind of a weird thing to know. It doesn't come up that often, and it's not that important outside of maybe if you have a better Thunder Element weapon for like Hammer or Hunting Horn that you'd rather hit the chest with. It's just weird. Again, we rather would use Fire because the overall hit zones are better, and it's really good on the face, and I believe the tail has the same 30 hit zone that Akantor has. So again, if you want to peel it off, You can actually only use fire here because I believe it's only 15 or 10 for thunder element on the tail, which you don't want to do. The neck and the back, I believe, are also the exact same hit zone. So if you're dealing damage to the back, you'll break technically the neck too, and they'll get slightly better. I don't think they're very good for cutting. I do believe they are better for blunt, and especially once broken. I'm not quite sure. I guess you could reach it if you go like back behind his face. But his face is just difficult to hit because it is so small. It is not like Akantor. He has a toothy grin, but it's not as large. The tusks aren't as large to hit either because I don't really think he has any. And he also has those big meaty claws that do just kind of block damage because they're not a good hit zone and they are very large. So it's kind of hard to get around them, especially considering his face area is pretty dangerous when he starts using his ice beams. I think you can tell this is probably like the worst attack because it's just kind of a time waster. So hopefully we don't have to deal with it too much. And he is a bit faster, so I do believe this was the G rank final boss in Freedom Unite or Portable 2nd G. So he's going to have a bit more moves since he was designed for G rank. And obviously since he was brung back in 4, I think 4 Ultimate, he may have been back in 4 as well. He's going to have more modern moves than some of the other monsters that just kind of got brought up from the older gens. He really, really loves swimming. I don't even know how that would feel. I would think that has to be pretty painful. Obviously, it's a game, it doesn't matter, but swimming through a solid sheet of ice and it doesn't even actually change the terrain, I think that would maybe not feel very nice. Because his face is pretty soft. Despite the giant shovel that he uses to dig, it's very soft for what that looks like. I would expect the shovel to actually be pretty hard of a spot to hit, but no, it's not. Now, I don't think it's safe to actually dodge into that. It would have been better than just getting hit there, but it doesn't actually do that much damage. Again, if we're not doing the event version of a quest, like I said earlier, or it not having a hyper or EX variant, it's not going to be dealing too much damage to us. So as long as we're not getting comboed and we're making sure we heal occasionally at the very least, we should be fine, unless we're hit by the random really strong move it has, like this one. I do believe that will do a lot of damage to us, and I think, let me check again. No, we actually have 8 ice resistance. It's thunder that we're weaker to. It's that little claw slam. Just gonna go ahead and roar. This one does not apply defense down, but you see there are snowballs that fall, and I believe will at the very least apply with Ice Blight. I don't think that one will apply you with Snowman. I could be wrong, though. If you'll watch the cats and see if they get hit by a snowball, then you might be able to tell there, but I'm going to try to make sure I don't get hit by them. All right, throw one more out here, but dodge to the left. See, he's just scooping there. No, he's actually jumping. He's fairly nimble, again, for such a large monster. That's why it's not like Akantor and you don't have as many openings, even though you do still have more than your average monster. Just positioned out of there pretty nicely. You can see the elevation changes as well. Again, this is not the most fun in the world because lots of ledges do not mix well with cats. All right, here comes this again. I'm going to try to just dodge into it. I, again, don't know if that's one continuous attack. It may be. And if that's the case, you can just dodge into it and not worry about it. But I would be more worried about it being something like Gameth's little snowplow attack, where you don't want to dodge into it, because it is fairly dangerous. I think I'll attack the tail here, try to position towards the face. Again, that's the hardest thing about this fight, is just making sure you're staying around the face without taking too much damage. Don't want to be hit by the finisher attack there, so we got out of the way. We apply our buffs here, try to get to his face. He's going to turn towards us, try to quick turn that. Failed it pretty miserably. He's going to roar again. Actually, don't get hit by it. I was just out of range, but I dodged into it, so that's good. Go ahead and spin here. Never mind, that does do damage. So, I guess don't be under him. Whenever he slams down like that, I guess it doesn't make sense. He's very large. Again, that's kind of the whole purpose of these. Going for the face. I'm going to try to spin once more. He's going to do his little Akantor impression, but it's not anywhere near as dangerous because it's slow and telegraphed. The main thing I would say about Akantor is that he does kind of fake you out, especially with his mouth attacks, because you think, okay, I just have to dodge the mouth attack. And then the tail comes right around and hits you. So if you're in a bad position after the mouth attack for the tail to hit you, then it does actually catch you off guard a fairly decent amount. Looks like he's jumping. I think I'm going to try to do this. I don't think he can turn too quickly, even after that. but he can use his tail here, so we'll try to avoid that. You don't have to. The Mega Boomerang does all the work for us. Gonna pierce through this. Hopefully that hits the face. No, he turned it too much. And that's another thing. The front legs on Akantor were better. Even though, you know, they weren't amazing, they weren't weak spots in any sense of the word, they at the very least weren't bouncing all the time. So you didn't have to worry about aiming for the face through them because you're still getting decent damage off. Here, however, you have to worry about piercing through them because if he turns the wrong way, then you're just hitting a terrible hit zone. Of course, we're still going to get a lot of stagger damage from it, but we'd rather just be getting it on the face. Dodge into that, or at least attempt to. Okay. You can also use that as a guide to how you want to position out of the way of it if you don't have adept dodges, but again, I don't recommend that specifically if you do have adept dodges. And also, I didn't do it intentionally, so it's not really something you may want to look for. All right, get out of the way of that. Looks like it's pretty safe to actually just dodge into right off the bat, so I think we're fine to counter it that way and just not think about it too much. It does put you behind him, so you will have to chase him some more, but it could be worse. There's the shovel jaw getting broken as the tiny chip on it denotes. Again, it's kind of weird. It's a very soft spot, but you only break off a tiny little chip. This fight definitely feels more like it was designed to keep melee and ranged in mind, because again, you don't get amazing hit zones. Now, for Pierce, once more, if you're breaking a bunch of parts off by piercing through it, it does get better as the fight goes on. But until then, the hit zones are pretty slim pickings for shot damage types. It is just the face, similar to cutting or something like that. But they just tend to drop off a lot more, especially on the hind parts of the body where it's getting into like the 15s and 10s for shot damage. So if you're using single shot types, you're going to want to be on the front. And if you're in the front, it's going to be a lot more difficult to actually fight it because he does have very wide reaching attacks. Get another part break. I believe that's his back. His little back fins are a little bit flatter. Not much though. Again, his parts really don't break very much compared to something like Akantor. It's very visible on him. But here it's just kind of like, okay, there's a little chip taken off. I do believe the claws actually look pretty mangled up if you break them, but you have to work so hard to actually get through them. It is a bit annoying. So you may not be seeing it much unless you're only attacking them. It's easier for us because we have Mind's Eye on our attacks and they just kind of go through. Lose an acorn there to the little snowball. Again, he feels like he's more designed to take care of the ranged targets that Akantor would have more problems with. And it makes sense. He came after Akantor. He's in the G rank, so the final level, so to speak, of the game. So it feels like kind of the culmination of all of the weapons having a hard time against it instead of just one. Weapon type just being able to cheese it so easily. There's the tail cut after throwing many Mega Boomerangs, and due to the way the fight's designed itself, you'll be attacking the tail a lot more if you're wanting to get decent damage at the very least. Again, those arms are interesting, and especially compared with or combined with his attacks, it forces you kind of to the back a lot more because a lot of his attacks are more forward based. And the ones that aren't are kind of forcing you off to the side, so it may end up being easier to hit the tail and actually get, okay, mediocre damage than piercing through those arms and just having it delete most of the damage that you would be dealing if you were just hitting the face. It is subquest complete. The other part of the jaw is broken. I wasn't sure if you could actually break it a little more, but you can. And once more, it's just a tiny little chip in the front, nothing more. So I guess subquest complete for whatever that matters. All right, we're a little over 25 minutes into it finally. Again, it's similar to Akantor. No phase 2 or anything like that, so the fight generally just has the same tempo throughout it. But as you do chip parts off of him, and actually broke his left claw, and you can see how it's a little bit more mangled up, but still only some chips are taken off. So its hit zone doesn't change, I believe, at all. So you're still going to bounce off of it if you try to use a melee weapon against it. So not really anything you want to go after, even after breaking it. But it does show how much we're actually hitting it, even though we're not really trying to. He is just a weird fight like that. But I wouldn't be surprised if he takes about the same amount of time as Akantor. I don't remember exactly what their health values are. So I believe Akantor is around 18,000 for the regular G4 quest. And then this one I haven't even looked into. But it may be exactly the same, or at the very least similar enough. I would maybe expect it to be a little bit less because he does have more defensive things about him, and you can see we got the claw break there, so we got it down. But it could just be that it's the same because he does have a fairly soft head. So even though you're not getting more damage off in other spots, and apparently he brings his claw down a little bit faster than his face, you're still not dealing too much damage to him. Little shovel upwards to get some snowballs out of the ground. Hopefully he turns around. He does sometimes just like to wander off and not do much. On the little shovel attack, if you are facing him immediately ahead and not like there where he was actually a little catty cornered, he will scoop up, and that scoop up will actually split into two. So the snowballs right down the middle will not hit you. But if you are off to the side a little bit, they are very large and they will hit you. So if you are straight ahead, you're good to run forward for the most part. You may still tap the dodge button just to get an adept dodge off or something. I'm not doing that here. He's just kind of zoning me right now. Hopefully I can get a go fight win off and just start healing. Cats have not been alive much at all here. So that does show, again, he's more aggressive and he has a lot more things that keep him from actually, letting you stay alive and be more aggressive at the same time, because cats are generally how it would go if you have no idea about the monster and you're just kind of not learning anything, because they don't learn anything. The poor little fellas, even though they help out a lot, they don't really do too much other than that. So as long as we have an attack buff, that's fine. We currently have one from just, I believe, the demon horn. It'd be better, of course, if we had Palico Rally, but I can't really expect too much out of them, aside from the occasional go fight win or SP horn or whatever they may throw out. So this attack does get a little bit faster as he pulls it out. So you can attack him safely from here, but you do want to dodge a bit early as he gets closer to you, because it can blindside you if you're waiting for it at the same tempo that it starts with. But there we go. I think a little bit faster than Akantor maybe, but that's probably because I wasn't talking as much, and also I didn't cart to him. So either way, I'll carve him up, also carve his tail up for those two nice gathering spots, and I'll meet you back at base. All right, back to base, and I do believe it's maybe a little bit slower than Akantor because it was like at 29 minutes and something, so very close to that 30-minute mark. However, our weapon, maybe a little bit better here. The Ukanlos Shovel Cross has blue sharpness, so already better than Akantor, with 240 raw, negative 15% affinity, bonus 20 defense, and 10 ice. This is certainly not a weapon you're using specifically for ice, but the raw is okay, but there are obviously better options. As for your raw side, it's even worse, only 217, so lower than the bloodbath weapon at, again, negative 15% affinity, which is 5% better than the bloodbath weapon at negative 20%. But you lose white sharpness, a little bit of raw, and you get the same amount of defense for 10 ice all of it. Not worth it. Don't even think about it. It's a cool looking weapon. I like that it's a shovel. That's cute, especially for a melee weapon, but not that useful. As for the armor, we're going to look at the Ukanlos Visage Cross. Same defense, and of course, going to have the best ice resistance, and Akantor had the best fire resistance, though it's only 4. It's not really that good, unfortunately. But it also looks pretty neat. Not as cool as Akantor, I'd say, but it's pretty nice. The silvery knight type armor is pretty cool looking. And here's the body armor for the Ukanlos one. Actually, it looks pretty neat. Not a big fan of the gauntlets. If they were not like little 3 pointy nubs, it'd be better if it was just the cat's hand with the, like, giant silver gauntlet. That'd be pretty cool, but they're not. They look a little odd. Here's the Akantor one for comparison. It has the gauntlets with the cat's hands, which just looks better in my opinion. And it's also really cool looking armor. Again, it looks kind of like Levasioth armor, but cooler. All right, and there's 2 more big bads down, not necessarily Elder Dragons, but you could lump them in with them because they're pretty much functionally the same in game. Either way, hope you enjoyed. If you did, please consider leaving a comment below and maybe even consider subscribing. Until next time, bye.